Welcome into Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Megan Payton. We are talking Seahawks free agency today. We've given you some free agents to look out for, but today's video is free agents that the Seahawks should avoid. I'll tell you why they should avoid these players, because you might see this list and say, why would we avoid a great player like that? And this is what we do here. We tell you why they should avoid them. So let's get into it. Our first guy we are talking is Evan Engram. These are all guys that are going to be free agents or technically free agents this offseason. Evan Engram, tight end, spent 5 years of his career with the Giants, his only 5 years. According to Spot Track, his market value is $6.9 million per year. We talk about the tight end position in Seattle kind of being inconsistent, up and down with Gerald Everett, Will Dissly. Can that be enough to get the Seahawks where they need to be? Evan Engram is good, and so I'm not saying that he's not a good player, but this just doesn't seem like a good fit for Seattle. Let's first take a look at his stats over the last 4 years. This year in particular, I would say it was a little bit above average. 408 yards, 3 touchdowns, 46 receptions. We know that the Giants offense just hasn't been good at all, so it's hard to kind of just evaluate his performance solely. I think the problem with Evan Engram is that Seattle would end up overpaying for him. Now, as we said, $6.9 million is what they are, predicting on Spot Track. That's not a ton in comparison to some of the big contracts in the league, but I still don't think that that's worth it for Seattle. Evan Engram had that calf injury in 2021. He missed a couple games in 2021. He's not great at run blocking. I think that's an area that Seattle would want to focus on. So my vote for the tight end area is you re-sign Gerald Everett and you can look somewhere else. Maybe that's the draft. Maybe that's another free agent. Maybe it's a trade. But Evan Engram is not a guy that I think belongs with the Seahawks. That's my first hot take. But I'll ask you guys before we get into the rest of my list, name me a free agent that you do not want Seattle to sign. It can be a big name, and for whatever reason, go let us know who this is and why you do not want them signed with the Seahawks. This is the pinned comment for today's show. So if you get the ad break, go on down and get your votes in right now. All right, next up on this list is Leonard Fournette, running back for the Buccaneers. Now, the reason I have him on this list is simply just because, again, it's not going to be worth it for Seattle. Fournette returned to Tampa Bay this year on a 1-year deal after the Super Bowl win in 2020. He has made a very strong case for Tampa Bay to re-sign him, and I genuinely think that's going to end up happening with Fournette. I think Tampa likes him there. I think Bruce Arians and him, they get along. He fits well in this locker room. I do expect Fournette to be in Tampa in 2022. He is arguably the top running back that's going to be hitting free agency, so that's why his name is getting brought up. You look at 2021, what he's done, 180 carries, 812 yards, an average of 4.5 and 8 touchdowns. And so he's great. He's good. He's definitely good. But again, not worth it. He's going to want a good chunk of money. And so I talked to Tom over here at Chat Sports, who's very good at numbers. I asked him, hey, what do you expect Fournette to want? He said 2 years, $16 million. Kind of $13.5 million guaranteed. That was Tom's take. And so you look at those numbers and you say, is Fournette worth that? They've got Rashad Penny. They've got Chris Carson. Alex Collins is in the talks of whether or not they're going to re-sign him or if they're going to re-sign Penny. But Fournette is not a top running back. He's just not in this list. You look at the guys like Christian McCaffery, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. These guys are getting paid well over $10 million a year. And so, no, is Fournette going to ask for that? Probably not. But to me, you just don't need to go with someone like that when you've got guys in your locker room that are doing well. We saw the importance of Rashad Penny, his breakout game in Houston, and then just all of the uphill performance he had from there. I do think that they can stick with their guys. They've got Chris Carson, who I think once he's healthy, he'll be back looking good. And I've said it before, I like the duo of Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. Now, Alex Collins is a separate subject. I think that could be a toss-up. They could get rid of him. It's not something that I'd say they have to do. But as far as Fournette, to me, not worth it. He's going to want at least a good chunk of change. He's probably going to stay in Tampa. I would look elsewhere when they're talking running backs. But this might be one of the more debatable takes. So I'll ask you guys, do you think that the Seahawks should go after Leonard Fournette? Go to the comments right now if you're saying, Megan, Megan, you are wrong. Why would we not go after Leonard Fournette? That's okay. Type Y for yes. Or if you agree with me and think we've got a pretty good situation right now in our own locker room, type N for no. And guys, we're going to pause on the free agency talk for a sec because I've got something even more important to tell you about. This is the Seahawks hats and beanie sale, up to 50% off on some really cool stuff. You can get throwback hats. You can get a cool beanie. It's still chilly in Seattle. And guys, I'm a big fan of repping your team during the off season. I think it shows, that you're a true fan, especially when it's, maybe not the best year. Let's look ahead to 2022, get something cool for the off season. You can go to chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. That's up to 50% off. Get some cool stuff for very cheap. Make sure you check this out because these deals are coming away and they're also running out very quickly. All right, we're going to give you one last offensive player to watch out for in a bad way. Mike Williams, free agents to avoid. That's what we're talking about right now. Mike Williams, here's my reasoning for not wanting Seattle to go after him. There's too many injuries with Williams. He's not worth the risk, in my opinion. I don't think that you want to take on a guy that is injury prone. We've seen this, and you can argue, hey, well, what about Rashad Penny? He's very much injury prone, and now I know we're talking wide receivers now, but still, you don't want to add in anyone else that is most likely going to get injured. Let's look at what Mike Williams has done with the Chargers, though. 2021, he did have a good year. Over 1,000 yards, 76 receptions, 9 touchdowns, and I do like him. So again, please do not take this video to mean that I don't think these players are good. I just don't see Mike Williams being someone that could really change the locker room here in Seattle. We've got a great wide receiver room. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, it's probably the best duo you could ask for in the league. You've got Russell Wilson getting better. He's got good targets. Let's figure out the tight end position, but I like sticking with the wide receivers that we currently have. But let's switch over to defense because that is a topic that we are trying to solve during this offseason. First guy I have is Von Miller. Von Miller, if you do not know, has been traded to the Rams during November. It was right before the trade deadline. He spent most and really all of his career at the Broncos leading up to this, 10 years in Denver prior to the trade, an 8-time Pro Bowler and a Super Bowl MVP. So if you're asking me, Megan, why do we not want an 8-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl MVP in Seattle? That sounds great. We need some pass rush. We need a guy like Von Miller. I'm saying you don't. Von Miller is 32 years old. He is great. However, he is getting older. He's turning 33 in March, I believe. He's going to be 33 by the time the season starts. I don't think Von Miller is someone that you want to bring on, especially he has had more injuries lately. So that is a concern, of course, as you get older, as you think about how quick your body can heal from certain injuries. Von Miller, stay in Los Angeles. That's okay with me. I understand he's dominant, but I think we go somewhere younger. He's had 50 tackles this year, 9.5 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble. But I'm still saying no to Von Miller. Let me know if you guys agree. Would Von Miller be worth it for Seattle? Not to mention, of course, he's going to be expensive. Side note there, if we could get him for very cheap, sure, bring on Von Miller into Seattle. It's not going to be the case. So let me know if you guys think this is worth it. Type S for sign or type P for pass if you're with me and think pass on Miller right now. All right, I'd like Seattle to draft an edge, though. We talk about the pass rush being a problem for the Seahawks. This is not me saying this problem is solved and that's why we don't need Miller. I'm saying this problem is not solved, but let's get a younger guy. Let's look at this draft, see how they can build up. Let's think more long-term here. So we actually did a draft target video, and I'm sure we're going to do more as the offseason goes on. But if you missed this video, I'll put it in the comments and in the descriptions. This is 2022 NFL draft targets. And by the way, this is why you guys should subscribe to our channel so you do not miss out on content like this. We are keeping you in the loop all season long. We've got free agency, trades, drafts, lots of things to go over. And of course, Seahawks still need to fill that defensive coordinator role. So go to youtube.com/Seahawks TV. Click the big red button. Make sure you are in the know with all things Seahawks. All right, we're going to stick on the pass rush for a sec. Jadeveon Clowney, I know you guys have mixed feelings about him. He is on my list of free agents to avoid. His market value actually dropped pretty significantly after 2020. Not a great year. Now, of course, he did bounce back this season. So we have seen him kind of, going upwards a little bit. So that's good for him. You look at 2021, 37 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Now, here's the thing with Jadeveon Clowney. I just don't see him being someone that can be a dominant pass rusher. That we haven't seen that from Clowney. And you look at his stats, they are slightly misleading, but that's where Seattle needs help. They need good pass rush. Jadeveon Clowney, that's not what I think about when I think of him and what he's good at. Yes, he's powerful, and yes, he can be effective rushing the passer, but he's just not as great as someone, I don't know, you could get in the draft. I'd actually choose Von Miller over Jadeveon Clowney. He also has missed a few tackles, I'd say, this year. Not someone that I think is super important for Seattle to look after. But let's move on to our last guy. That's Dont'a Hightower, sticking on the defensive side of things for a sec. He's someone, and this is why he's last on the list, because I'm not going to completely nix the idea, but I think that they should bring back Bobby Wagner. And so if they bring back Bobby Wagner, no, we do not need Hightower. But if they were to not, stick with Wagner, then I'd say maybe you can consider this, because again, this is a position that we need to figure out in Seattle, especially if Wagner's going to be gone. Jordan Brooks really stepped up this year, though. I'd say he's someone I'm really looking forward to seeing in Seattle for many years to come. Still very young, still has a lot more time and more stuff to prove to us. But Dont'a Hightower, again, someone that I just don't think has the athleticism that the Seahawks need. 64 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1.5 sacks this year, 1 pass breakup. He's not really great and viable in coverage on a down-to-down basis. I just don't think he's consistent enough for me to say Seahawks should risk this, bring in a guy like Hightower. So these right now are my 6 free agent targets for the Seahawks to avoid. We've got Evan Ingram, we've got Leonard Fournette, Mike Williams, Von Miller, Jadeveon Clowney, and Dont'a Hightower. I know some of these names sound intriguing to you, but if you actually look at it, might not be the best option for Seattle. Get your votes in, though. Tell me who you guys do want and don't want the Seahawks to bring in for 2022.